Hey everybody, welcome to the episode 3 of the Game In podcast. I'm your host, Blitzermaru, and as always, here's my co-host, Jim LC. It's been a while since we were able to get on and record. We both had a busy few weeks. I've been a bit traveling the world. I was in Germany for a week, and I've got some fun stories from that. Been doing a lot of gaming. It's been a big few weeks for gaming. I've sunk a lot of hours into Elden Ring Night Rain, and I'm happy to talk more about that. But what have you been getting up to, Jim? What's going on with you?
Oh man, just to kind of preface this for our viewers at home, we have a little thing, we have a little document where it says what have we been doing the last 3 weeks, and I'm thinking to myself, what have I been doing for the past 3 weeks, right? Do you know what I mean? Like whenever someone asks, he's like, "How have you been?" I'm like, "How have I been?" Right? So
It's been a bit of a blur.
no, it's been a bit of a blur. I'm gonna be honest with you, it has been a bit of a blur, but I have been playing 2 games actually. Besides, I've recently gotten back into Final Fantasy 14, but that's kind of like normal as business kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I've been playing Dune Awakening, so that's been pretty fun. I don't know if you're a huge Dune fan or not. I'm personally not.
I'm not like a huge Dune fan, but the Dune 2 movie, like, chills like every 10 minutes watching that movie, man.
Okay, let me tell you. I thought I don't know if this is like a common opinion on the internet, right? But I thought the Timothy Chalamet,
Yeah.
however you say his name, right? The Timothy, series of movies. Um, I thought the first movie was super boring. I'm gonna be honest with you.
No, that is the common sentiment. That is the
Okay.
common sentiment, that the first movie's a little bit slow to take off. And I'm stoked because I didn't watch the first movie till the second one came out. So I watched the
Okay.
first movie and then I was able to go hit the theater like 2 days later.
Mhm.
And you really got to watch them as the duology. You've got to watch them
Right.
back to back, because that first one ends and you're just like, what is everyone talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
no. Yeah. That was my first impression too, because I was like, I thought the second movie was fantastic. I also watched it in a what is it? They call it like 5DX. I don't know if you or
oh, in
you
the
know what
chair
that
that
is.
rumbles?
The chair that rumbles and
Yeah.
like fog comes at you and like, so I was really excited because I was like, this is the first time I'm ever gonna see this. I don't know if Dune was probably the best movie to see this for, right? But it actually, like, your chair like tilts forward. So like there's a scene in the movie where you're actually like kind of leaning down, like looking across, like I think you're looking down from a ledge and your seat is just kind of like angling itself as well. So
Oh,
it was pretty
man.
cool. Um
What it do when you rode the sandworm?
oh, there was rumble, right? But you can adjust the rumble on the seat, right? This is what I eventually did because like this is just getting annoying at this point, right? I'm like,
You're sitting there, you're like, I'm enjoying the movie.
no, I messaged my friends like I legitimately hope that it's going to be like a roller coaster and all the popcorn's going to be like flying in the air when we do that, not like a Minecraft movie situation, but like, an actual roller coaster. It wasn't like that. It was kind of I would ever see a 5DX movie again? Probably not.
Probably not.
Um, Probably not. It wasn't worth the ticket price. I think I spent like, so $25. I think it was something
Oof.
like that. Yeah, no.
Oof.
Yeah, probably not going to do that again. But anyway, Dune
So
Awakening.
that was a poor use of money on Dune.
That was a poor use of money on Dune. Now, is Dune Awakening good? Um, I think it's pretty fun. It's just your kind of I'm not gonna be honest with you. It's kind of your run of the mill kind of survival game, right? You build a base and you survive out in the wild, kind of type of deal. Um, I don't know if Valheim would be a good example. Might get flamed for that, but very much in that
Kind of
same
like
kind of
Ark.
vein. Arc, yeah, kind of like Arc in that kind of same vein
Okay.
too.
But it's an
I don't
MMO,
know.
right?
It is an MMO. It is an MMO. So I've been playing with some of our other friends, right? That have acquired the game as well. And it's pretty fun. Um, I haven't really gone too far. I built a motorcycle and I'm about to head north. Apparently, I'm like I'm only like 5-6 hours in, and like everybody else is like, oh yeah, we've done that already. I'm like,
Oh,
Okay,
really?
cool. Yeah, they've been building bases on the north and everything. I died by a sandworm. That was pretty cool. It was also very terrifying. So,
Man, so
uh,
that's the real struggle with gaming, in my opinion, when it comes to MMOs and
mhm.
multiplayer, is getting something with your friends, saying you're gonna play it together, and like, you know how they talk about like married couples who like one of them watches ahead in the Netflix show and they have to like keep
Oh
it a
yeah.
secret. I feel like
Mhm.
gamers are like not even secret about it. They're just like, oh yeah, well, like I had time and you did it, so I just blasted on ahead.
No,
Um,
that is a common thing. I remember it is especially in I think Final Fantasy 14 is a lot better in that aspect, but I played other MMOs where it's kind of like I think MapleStory is a good example where me and my friend a long time ago, right? He would be like 100 levels ahead of me and because he played a lot more, right? And I'm like, "Oh, I guess we can't really do much together until until I level up like
no.
all the way up there, right?" Um
Am I
so
insane or is there a Maple Story remake?
I haven't heard anything about it.
Did I?
Maybe.
I feel like I saw something about Maple Story and people freaked out.
Not MapleStory 2, which later got shut down like a while. It's been years since that got shut down. Um, no, I mean there's a
No, it was Maple Story Classic World was announced 2 months ago.
oh my god, is this the pre okay. There is a have you
Like,
heard
think
of
WoW Classic.
okay, have you heard of the whole how aware of you are of how aware of you are you of the MapleStory kind of like world
Zero.
just in general?
Zero.
Okay. So this is actually so now that I'm looking at this, if I know if I am reading this correctly, this is pre Big Bang. Yes, this is pre Big Bang Maple Story. Okay, we're gonna go to a whole different tangent here because
Yeah,
now that
go
you
on the
just brought this
tangent.
up.
Go on the
Okay, so
tangent.
history lesson. I don't know what it was when Maple Story did their Big Bang update, which is essentially they revamped the game, right? They made it easier to level. They made everything. It was very much the WoW Classic versus modern World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Um, but that was like in 2004, 5, 6, around that kind of time period, right? Where Maple Story did Big Bang. They revamped the leveling system. They made everything. I don't want to say I'll say easier. It made everything easier, basically, right?
Okay.
Leveling didn't take um days just level up to a specific level, right? It took just they minimized it to like a couple hours, basically, right? Um, so this is actually now that you say that, this is actually a pretty big deal. Now, this might be something we talk about later. Now once I look more into it, but I don't know if people I think people just have. Looking at this from my perspective, I think people are going to have nostalgia glasses for this, and they're going to play it, and they're going to realize, wow,
I had
probably
way
not
too
the
much
best.
time as a teenager.
Yeah, I have way too much time as a teenager, and I don't have this much time as I do now, right? So, it's like that. When people go back to Final Fantasy 11, right? I don't think that game has changed too much in terms of. I haven't played Final Fantasy 11, so I can't speak on it. But I think it's very much like that. Or going to classic WoW, I think that's a better example, honestly. Um, there'll be a market for it, and I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to love it. I think I'll probably play it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that now. I just want to try it. So,
Well, and you know what's interesting about Classic WoW is they have like updated Classic WoW. Like they're basically just retreading the expansions from what I understand. And it's like, oh,
hmm
so eventually Classic WoW is going to be the WoW we're at now, but 10 years from now. And
yeah,
people will be looking at 2025 as the glory days of WoW. I don't know. Like,
I don't know how that's going to go. I don't
it's weird to
know.
me.
Do they just like redo it again? Like they're like, oh, we're just going to go back to the base World of Warcraft game. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like, is
Like
there going
10
to be
years
a
from now.
Classic WoW 2.0 where they're like,
Classic WoW.
you guys wanted it, so now we have WoW Origins.
I don't know. Anyway, besides the point.
But
Besides going back on the topic, besides Dune, I've also been playing Stellar Blade.
oh,
That's
you've
been
been
pretty
playing
fun
Stellar
too.
Blade.
And I've been playing it on. I actually bought a OLED ultra wide. So
Oh,
it is
nice.
it is probably one of the best things I've ever bought. Um, and it is like so immersive, just like going from the screens, like right here, right? It's kind of like it's like the transition that people made from 4:3 to 16:9, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of now we're going. If it feels like going to 16:9 for the first time again, and you're like so immersed into the screen, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I haven't had that feeling since everybody went to 16:9, right? Um,
Yeah. So like that's one of the things like with my gaming setup, like I have a 32-inch monitor right here
right.
that like I'm looking at you at on, and I can play like PC games on it, but like I have gone through so much trouble to have my whole setup hooked to my TV because I have
Mhm.
a 65-inch Sony like 4K like really nice TV that I invested money in, and it is different when you're on the big screen and like
Mhm.
you're kind of sucked in. And I remember Stellar Blade being one of those games that did that, because all the jokes aside about like people being like, oh, that's a gooner game, it
Mhm.
was one of my favorite games of last year. I played it on launch. Heavy influence from Nier, one of my favorite franchises.
Mhm.
uh and like I think gameplay wise it's solid, story wise it's solid. It's not the most revolutionary game to ever come out, but like it was a solid like 8.5, 9 out of 10 for me.
Mhm. And to touch on the gameplay, right? And I had no idea what the gameplay was gonna. I just had a feeling it was gonna be like, oh, it's just gonna be like a hack and slash, like kind of is, right?
Yeah.
But I got in there and I got my ass kicked. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was at a certain point where I was like, am I cooked? Like, am I like, this game is harder. It's like, is this game like supposed to be like this difficult, right? Or am I just like really bad?
Well, and
Um,
a lot of people saw the difficulty at the beginning and called it a Souls like. I
mhm,
don't think it's a Souls like. I consider it a third person action game, but I think what a lot of people have forgotten is that traditionally third person action games were hard. Like Devil
mhm,
May Cry as a hack and slash was hard. The old school God of War games were not necessarily easy games. Those were also kind of hack and slash, but like Wukong came out and everybody's like, "Oh, this is a Souls like." And I'm like, "No, it's just a third person action game. These games have always been kind of more
right,
difficult."
right.
Um and we're kind of seeing a resurgence of those games that a lot of people are like gravitating to because of the Souls like features, but like no, third person action's been around for a while, and it's good to see that resurgence.
Mhm. Yeah, and speaking of Souls, like I know you've been very busy. You talked about been playing Elden Ring, Night Rain,
Night
right?
Rain. Yeah,
Mhm.
so and this is one of those. So I got it on PC because I had a bunch of friends who were all like, "Oh yeah, like let's play together." I've played with my brother a handful of times. And this isn't a slight to anyone being busy.
Mhm.
People have lives and I understand that, but it's like I bought it on PC to play with other people. Um, and I'm realizing I should have just bought it on my PS5 because the only
Is
person I
no one
have
playing
played
with
with
you?
is my brother. And he could have bought it on PS5.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
but no, I like it for different reasons than I like Elden Ring or other Souls likes. Like there's such a quickness to the gameplay loop at the same time being a long gameplay loop, because you'll make it to the final boss and die, and it's all like, oh, people complained about the runbacks in Dark Souls 2 taking 2 minutes. The run back to a boss in Night Rain is an hour of gameplay. Like,
Mhm.
you can't just hop back into it. But I've taken out 5 of the 8 bosses. Um, and it's because it's so much effort to get to one of them. When you do take one down, like the satisfaction is so high to be like, oh
Mhm.
man, we finally did it after like 5 or 6 runs. Um, which like doesn't sound like a lot when you compare to like other Souls games, like you're all like, oh well, I had a boss that took me like 80 runs. And it's like, yeah, but you could walk right up to him. 5 or 6 runs in Night Rain is like 5 or 6 hours of trying the same level over and over. And like, yeah, there's just something about it. I'm playing as like the main guy from all the advertising, and my friends are probably sick of this, but like we'll be sitting in VC and I'll be playing and I'll be like, I'm John Night Rain, because that's what everyone's called him on the internet, and I'll just be like sliding around killing things. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on that. The other gaming thing that I've spent a fair amount of time on is the Final Fantasy Magic card release. So I was visiting friends in Germany for a week, and we went to this convention called Dokumi. It's one of the biggest anime conventions in Europe. They had 215,000 people come through over the weekend. And Magic was actually there. And my friend who actually plays Magic, I don't play Magic, I just like Final Fantasy. They went and they got some of the cards, and like we sat around the table and we all got to open a pack. And I was like, man, well, I didn't realize how fun this was going to be. So I went and got in the line, and they're like, oh, we're all out of English stuff for today. Come back tomorrow. I go back the next day, all out of English stuff again, even though I got there in the morning. Go back the third day. They're like, oh, the only English thing we have is boosters, like regular boosters. So I bought 10 boosters, and we opened and I didn't really get anything from the boosters, but like it was fun to open them with friends. But I decided, I told myself, I said, you know, I'm not going to collect all of these. That's insane. That's a huge money sink. Like, I know what these cards cost, especially coming back to the US and seeing everyone charging scalper prices. At Dokumi, I was paying $5 a pack, which is like direct from Magic MSRP. Here, they're like 9 to 10. And it varies from shop to shop. But so I said, this was not last Saturday, but the Saturday before. I said, you know, I'm going to pick my favorite Final Fantasy 13. You can flame me in the comments for that if you want. And I said, I'm going to get the cast of Final Fantasy 13. So I went around to like 7 different shops, and I went through their singles the day of release, and I was able to amass all 7 of them. And then I've got them right here.
Oh, there
so
you
I've
go.
got Lightning in the middle, Saz and Sarah. And then I've got Vanille and Fang and Snow and Hope. And I've actually, so the Lightning was the most expensive card. This is the Lightning Army of One. See if I can get the camera to focus on that. But then I also got the full art version of her.
Yeah, Lightning's like $50, right?
Yeah.
Last time I looked, it was like $50, right? Yeah.
I got it day of release, and I got it for 30. I think is what I spent. And then the other cards were like 2-cent cards. Like it was, I remember like going up to the register, and they were like, hey, that'll be 98 cents. And I pull out my card, and they go, oh, it's a $3 minimum. And I was all like, I'll grab a Coke. And then to my brother and my nephew, I was like, you guys grab snacks. And they got like chips and a Baby Ruth.
Yeah, my friends, they bought some packs, and they were like, dude, you want to open these? I know you're a huge Final Fantasy fan, right? And I was like, okay, sure. And it was just me fanboying about it. It's like, oh, this is from blah blah blah, and they're like, how do you know? I was like, yeah, I mean, it's like I played these games. It also says on the bottom what
it says in the bottom which game it comes from.
Yeah, it also says on the bottom. So like, if you're ever curious, no, I did not pull a Vivi card. That card is insane, by the way. I played a little bit of Magic the Gathering, but I have a lot of friends that do play Magic the Gathering, and I think we share that between the both of us, right? That Vivi card is apparently kind of busted. Well, I don't know if you realize that. Yeah.
So that was an interesting thing for me to learn, that with Magic, the price of cards is generally not dictated by playability or by collectability. It's dictated by playability. So like there's cards like in the Final Fantasy set that like as a Final Fantasy fan, I wouldn't necessarily care about, that are like $80, $90 cards. And like Vivi just happens to be in this weird cross section where Final Fantasy collectors want it and Magic players want it. So like he's been like stupid expensive because of that.
Yeah, no, he's apparently a busted card. I mean, I don't really understand too much about how busted it is. I'm sure there's decks already built around it that just makes it even more busted. But the thing is that these Final Fantasy cards, they are standard, right? Apparently.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get reprinted. So all these collector, I think all the collector cards won't go on reprints, but because I know I just looked it up. There is a card that sold for $40,000. It was
So
a golden
yeah,
chocobo.
yeah. There's a set of golden chocobos. There's only 77 of them.
Hmm.
So they're like high collectability. I believe they only come in the collector's boosters, which a collector's booster is like $45 by itself.
Hmm.
And that's if you're getting MSRP. People are selling them for like $90 to $100. If you want to
Yeah.
buy a case of them, it's like 900. But those have kind of been the two things that have taken up my time. My brother found out I bought some, and my other brother, and was all like, "Man, I thought you weren't buying any." Well, now I want to buy some, so I went out with him, and he
Hmm.
bought. He's gone ham on it. He's got binders. He's got 3 binders: one for FF 1 through 6, one through 7 through 12, and then one for 13 on.
Hmm.
And he's like organizing them all, and he bought like 400 singles the first day that we went out, which where most of them are like 10 cents. I think he ended up spending like $80 total on the day.
Oh, sure.
But like
Hmm.
he was planning to go out and buy a box of boosters for like $200, and I was like, no man, let's go look at singles, get what you actually want.
Hmm.
And then I ended up giving him all my cards from the boosters that I opened in Germany, because I was like, no, I told myself I was getting the 7 that I wanted, and I'm
Hmm.
done. I'm out. I can't financially put myself into ruin over these Magic cards.
I can't do it. I can't play Magic the Gathering. It's too. I do like Commander. I do have 2 Commander sets that I play. They're all pre-cons, and it's pretty fun. But I'm just like, I don't have any desire, if that makes sense, to play it. But when I do play it, it's fun. I
Yeah.
just don't want to. I just don't have the desire.
So, but yeah, so that's been the last 3 weeks, kind of on like the personal front, but a lot's been happening in gaming that we're going to catch up and talk about.
Hmm.
We had the launch of the Switch 2, which we're going to talk about. And we've had a ton of showcases to
Hmm.
cover. Starting with the Switch 2, last time I think we briefly spoke about it. I got one on pre-order, and was excited for it. I have it here right next to me. But
Hmm.
you've got a Switch 2 story to tell.
Yes. So in the last podcast, I think it was the last podcast that we talked about this. I was like, "Are you getting a Switch too?" I was like, "No." Um, that obviously didn't happen because I got a Switch too.
What was it? Was it the
um,
FOMO?
I think it was the FOMO. But here's the thing, right? The Switch 2 is actually pretty easy to get. It wasn't very
Yeah.
difficult. I'm gonna be honest with you. It sold 3.5 million last reported like a couple weeks ago, a week or two ago, right?
Yeah. Launch
Which
weekend.
is
Biggest launch in history.
yeah. So for all those people that are complaining, it's like, oh, no one's gonna buy the Switch 2. Apparently, it sold 3.5 million. So don't believe everything you see on the internet, right?
And
um,
two of us are the problem, I guess.
2 of us are the problem. I ended up buying it through Costco. So the story is that it was 9 o'clock the night before, right? So like usually at Pacific time, right? That's usually when releases come out. Because it would have been midnight in Eastern time, right?
Yep.
And I was on Costco, and I was like, you know what? I don't think too many people are gonna buy it from Costco, right? It came with Mario Kart World, and it also came with a year of Nintendo Switch Online Plus or whatever, Deluxe, whatever they call it, the
Oh, okay.
upgraded premium. So it was 524 before taxes.
That's not a
Um,
bad deal.
and yeah, it's not a bad deal because I think NSO is like $50 a year for
Yeah,
that
for the
year.
expansion.
Hmm. And I really wanted to get the expansion too because I wanted to try the GameCube games. Um, but yeah, no, it wasn't very difficult to get. It wouldn't actually let me check out. It didn't actually release when I checked at 9 o'clock, and I was like, whatever. I'm just not gonna get it, right? I woke up the next morning, it's like, you know what? It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. It's like, I'll just try again, right? And it was there, and I bought it, and I was like, okay, it's coming tomorrow. And I was like, okay, that was it. That was easy.
Man, the
So
same thing happened to me when I got my PS5. I was doing mine through PlayStation Direct. Like I'm talking launch PS5.
mhm.
And it was like gone, and I like missed the queue. And then the next morning I just said, I'm just gonna log in. I'm just gonna log in and see if there was a restock. And lo and behold, let me add to cart. I hit ordered, and I had a PlayStation the day it came out. Like,
Yeah, but let me tell you this, because I struggled to getting my place. Actually, I didn't struggle too hard, right? Comparatively to other things that I bought, I think the graphics cards were the hardest things that I bought. But the PlayStation wasn't very that difficult. I bought two PlayStation 5s, one for me and one for my cousin, right? So they weren't hard to get, but I did have to subscribe to one of those discords that said, "Hey, PS5s are in stock," right? And I
ah,
was able to get one. So, I feel like the PS5 was harder to get. I just feel like Nintendo was better prepared this go around than other companies that have
yeah.
released, similar kind of products, whether it be graphics cards, whether it be um consoles, anything of
Well,
that kind of nature, right? So,
and you know what I've been surprised about with the Switch too was I know pre-orders like sold out everywhere, but it's
mhm,
been interesting to see how many people are like, oh, I went into my local GameStop and they did have them on the shelf. I went to Target
right.
and they did have them on the shelf. And I know Nintendo did talk before launch saying, we are going to make enough of these that scalpers won't be an issue. Like
Mhm.
they put that stance out. And when pre-orders sold out, people are all like, oh, Nintendo didn't realize how bad it would be. But I guess what Nintendo did was just said, oh, we're going to keep a bunch of stock not on pre-order that we're going to tell you to just stick on the shelf launch day.
Right. And I think a lot of people have been burnt by that statement, because a lot of other companies have said the same exact thing, right? Where it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we have a ton of stock, right? Um, they didn't, right? So that's why people were kind of expecting Nintendo to be very much the same way, and they weren't. So good for them. They were prepared. I'm really happy for them. They excellent launch. There was a lot of availability for the people that, there's 3.5 billion that were sold. So
3.5
I
million.
mhm.
3.5 million, not billion.
No, I said did I say billion? I meant
You
million.
said billion. Somebody's going to take
Oh.
that out of context, and AI is going to spin it, and it's going to be like someone's going to Google how many Switches have been sold. 3.5 billion according to the AI overview, because it took it from our YouTube
Right.
video, and our credibility is destroyed forever.
It's just destroyed forever. Um, but okay, so let's talk about some things that I like, and let's talk about some things that I don't really like at all. Because there's a handful of, actually, it's more of a nitpick, and it's been a problem since the Switch. Actually, you know what? Let's start with there. Things I don't like, right? Let's
Yeah,
start with the
go into
negatives
it.
first.
Go
Okay.
into it.
So these things, the Joy Cons, Nintendo, tell me how you still have not improved the usability for long hours on it. So on the Steam Deck, right? I'm gonna this is the device I'm gonna compare it the most to. Right? On the Steam
Okay.
Deck, right? You have these little hinges, right? You have these little
Yeah.
hinges on the, or whatever, divots or whatever you want to call them. And a modern controller has the same thing, right? And this is the Switch Pro controller right here. So
Yeah.
this is very comfortable, right? Nintendo, for the life of me, I don't know why you still do this. This, holding it like this for long hours, is not comfortable. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be honest with you. It is not
So,
comfortable. And this has been a problem since the Switch 1, right? So this is the
yeah.
OLED Switch, right? So this, I can tell you it holds better than this, right? But I don't want to have to go out of my way, right? And this is just a nitpick. This is like something that's very minor. Let me just preface that. There have been, third parties. I know Dbrand has a great case that kind of adds the little things right here,
Yeah.
right? Um, but for the life of me, I feel like maybe someone should have saw that through. Now, Nintendo, if you're listening, you probably aren't, but if you're listening, you have a fantastic opportunity to release something of that manner, and I'm pretty sure people will buy it, right?
So you bring up a good point. I I know they do the Pro controller. I am surprised there's not a version of the Joy-Cons that is like called the Pro Joy-Cons that are built like that. It seems like that's something that's mostly gone to third party. But I think the other thing is that they have these. This should have came with your Switch. And I guess this is kind of the counter thing is I think that they expect if someone's going long hours, they expect them to be playing docked on the TV. And with this, I think maybe that's where their head is at. I'm not saying that's the correct answer. Because, I mean, you look at the Switch Lite that can't even dock. And it's that same situation. But I will say, like, in counter to, you know, it still sucks in handheld mode. I think with the increase in Joy-Con size on this, it does feel significantly better to me than the Switch One. I also like the magnet system.
Yep.
Because I feel like pulling these off the Switch One back in the day to switch them over to this was a whole thing. And like I would have to pull my Switch out of the dock to like get them to slide off. And like I left it in the dock on the side of my desk just now to switch that up. And I feel like size-wise, is it the most ergonomic controller in the world? No. But in playing this way, I don't feel as compelled to go buy a Pro controller as I did with the Switch One. The Switch One, I was always looking for a different controller setup.
And the good thing about it, too, is that you can use your old Switch controller with it, too. So that's great. But not to kind of to go back onto the Joy-Cons and what I don't like. And now we're going back on that train, right?
Yeah, you give me the don't likes, I'll give you my counters.
Nintendo had 10 years, okay? And they've had 10 years of user case studies to figure out which way users use it the most. And I guarantee you, there's a lot of people, I think the majority of people use it in handheld mode. So that's what baffles me is that Nintendo hasn't found a way to make it a little bit more ergonomic. I think making it bigger definitely helped. But I think for those long hours still, for Nintendo, especially Nintendo, right? For the company that is most renowned for the Game Boy, you know, all pretty much the most successful handhelds in the world that have ever existed, they couldn't have figured this out.
Well, that's just it's interesting. It's interesting you say that because truthfully, I don't think other than maybe the Game Boy SP, I don't think there's ever truly been a Nintendo handheld that felt good to hold in the hands. Other than like the fact that I had little kid hands, like I don't think they've ever had a super ergonomic like I think maybe the Wii was a super ergonomic controller, but like Nintendo's always kind of had weird, either very flat or like the N64 with like 3 prongs and like not knowing what to do. Like I think the Switch was the only controller ever that you could like hit all the buttons and have like an ergonomic shape in your hands. I guess maybe that's just my thought. We've discussed in the past, I'm not a fan of the GameCube controller because it doesn't feel super ergonomic to me. It does feel kind of small. I feel like maybe that's, you're hitting the nail on the head, I guess is what I'm saying, is that Nintendo has had more than 10 years. Nintendo has had 40 years to figure out what a good controller scheme is. And I don't know if they've ever actually pulled it off. That's my opinion.
They've never. You know what? Also, another nitpick, right? Now, this is a very Japanese thing. Because I know in Japan, the confirm button is always on the right side, right?
Yeah.
It's always this right mouse button. For Americans, and it took me a while. This is me being an American. This is an American problem, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna press X, right? Or we're gonna press A, right? Now it took me a while. I was pressing B. I was like, why is it not like? Why did it just cancel everything out? Right? It's like, oh, it's the back button, right? So
I think you can switch that in the settings.
Can you switch that in the settings?
I don't know if you have to switch the buttons entirely or if it's you can just switch that setting, but there is a way to change that because I've done it.
Okay.
At least on the Switch 1, I've done it. If they remove the feature from the Switch 2, I'd be very surprised. But no, it is a valid, because every time I switch from my PlayStation to my Switch, my brain has to recorrect.
Recorrect, right?
To what is confirmed.
I think it's a less of a problem. I think this, like I said, I think this is just an American problem. This is absolutely, because I know in Japan they don't do that. They use circle as their confirm button, right? So or B or in this case it would probably be a PlayStation configuration, right? So it'll be circle, right?
So
anyway,
that's your nitpicks. I'll give you my nitpicks.
Okay.
The game card share function was pitched as this awesome thing, and I think it could be a really awesome thing. Setting it up is way too complicated. I went to set mine up, and it was all like, oh, you have to like bring it into proximity of the Switch that you're like sharing game cards with, and doing like it was, and like I ended up searching up a YouTube video because like I was just trying to play Super Mario Kart World or Mario Kart World that I had got the digital voucher for, and it was like automatically saying, oh, you have to register this as like the game card and like put the game card into your library. And I was like, what? Why do I have to put the game card in my library? Like, I own this game. Like, I'm not sharing it with someone. It's mine.
Right.
And I had to like find a YouTube video that there's like a setting you have to shut off to like say, no, just let me play my downloaded games. And I understand the game card feature is also on the Switch 1 now. And so like, maybe that's not necessarily a Switch 2 criticism. That's hey, Nintendo, that shouldn't have been an automatic opt-in for people who aren't even necessarily sharing game cards with family. Like,
Right.
I think that system needs some refinement in like actually figuring it out, because I don't know if you just have to bring it next to the Switch for the first time, but like, so if I'm sharing a game card with my brother, for example, do I have to get next to my brother every single time, even though we're on the same family plan, and be like, here, let's load this game card? Like, is it bringing back the physical transaction? Because I'm like, if you're doing that, like, I don't know, I don't feel there's much of a point to it.
Right.
And maybe that's just me being salty about it, but it took me like 25 minutes to figure out how to get in to play Mario Kart World because of this weird game card system that I had to shut
Really
off.
interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't have that problem.
And so, yeah, that's the thing. Maybe it's because I was logged on a different Switch, or I just never shut off the setting, or it's because I'm on a family plan. We're on a family plan for like downloads and stuff, for the expansion pack. I don't know. It was a really weird experience that like was just overly frustrating, of like, this is a brand new console. Why are you locking me out of playing my game? Transferring stuff from my old console, magical experience. Took like 10 minutes. But then when I tried to play the brand new game that I had just downloaded, it was weird. It was weird. And that was probably my biggest frustration in the whole setup.
Right. I thought the setup was pretty seamless. You know, a lot of people like to complain that the once you set up a Switch, you can't transfer your old. Once you set up the Switch 2, you can't you can't transfer anything afterwards, right? So you have to you have to factory reset it.
I didn't know that.
It is a problem, but I don't want to say it's just a Nintendo problem, because Apple does the same exact thing.
Gotcha.
I think so like you're transferring from but Apple has backups on your iCloud. If you switch from an iPhone to an iPhone, right? I think now it's been a while since I switched from an Android phone to an iPhone phone. But I think that's the process, right? So that's why people were like, well, some of my data, if I had NS like Nintendo Switch Online, some of my stuff is in the cloud, right? So it's like I don't know. There's a whole other uh topic there, but there's another thing. Now that we're on topic of software related things, I know we'll talk. I'm pretty sure we'll talk about things that we do like, and it's just a second, both hardware and software. But have you ever tried the classic games they like to call it now on
Yeah.
the Nintendo Switch Online? Do you so on the dock? Do you see that image of Wind Waker? Right. If you scroll down, there's an image of Wind Waker. I'm gonna put it up on the screen too.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you, those bars. This is another nitpick, okay? But those bars on the side are annoying. I'm gonna be honest with you. Now, this is just
Oh, that
coming
they
from me
didn't put it
personally.
into widescreen.
No, it's not the fact that I'm glad they didn't put it into widescreen because if they put it into widescreen, you're just stretching that image, right?
Yeah.
The fact that there's a gray gradient on there. There's like a gray background on there, and it's like dots. And now when it looks disgusting, Nintendo. Please, can you just change it to like just have it as a simple black background? I'm fine with having black bars on the side of my image. But
So I've never thought about it because I did it when I played N64. I wonder if you can change them.
you cannot change them.
You've looked?
I've tried. I've looked. I've looked everywhere. You cannot change them.
That does
The good
feel
thing
like
about
an
it-
oversight.
The GameCube, there are certain GameCube games that do support widescreen. Wind Waker is not one of them. So I think Soul Calibur and F-Zero, I think, were the only two that were on the GameCube Classic as of this moment. Those both support widescreen, but Wind Waker does not. So it has to natively in the game have to support widescreen in order
Gotcha.
to activate widescreen. So another nitpick, I just don't like it. Nintendo just put black backgrounds on there, and then we'll just call it a day. Yeah.
So
Just
I'm going to use that into transition to the things we do like.
okay. Enough being negative, right? Enough.
Because what I will say is, apart from your complaint about the black bars, the GameCube runs beautifully on it. I played Soul Calibur 2 for like 3 hours. I suck at Soul Calibur 2, but I was just so stoked because I never had a GameCube growing up. And like,
Right.
I'm going to play Wind Waker for the first time. That's not me watching someone else play it, because I think I watched my brother play it on like the Wii or something like that. But like, I am so stoked about the GameCube. With the bigger storage, I used to like pick and choose which classic consoles I had downloaded. I just have all of them now. I have all of them downloaded, and I've still got plenty of storage on the system. Which I know that like I may run out of storage eventually and have to buy an expansion, but I do mostly physical games. In terms of like other software stuff, I got, because I have the family expansion pass, I got the upgrades to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. They came free if you had the expansion. Hopped on Tears of the Kingdom for like an hour and was blown away. Was blown away. And like, I tried it a bit at Dokumi because Nintendo had a booth that was set up, and I played a bit on their TVs and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of smooth. But like, I hadn't played it on a TV I was used to. Like, I'm used to my TV. That's what I played Tears of the Kingdom on. And like, turning around and like playing it and being like, oh, no, man, having the game at 4K 60 is different. And it looks good. And it runs really smooth. Good. And like, from like an actual, I think there were questions. There were people like, is this console going to run at 4K 60? Like, is Nintendo actually going to be able to do it? And I mentioned before, you know, if Sony could do it for $400 4 years ago, why can't Nintendo do it for $400 now? And so far, every game I've played on it has ran beautifully. Been playing Xenoblade on it. It's running fantastic. I think like the extra power, this is what we always wanted the Switch to be.
Right.
And that's been the biggest thing for me is like, I'm buying Switch games now because I view it as a viable console to play these games on.
Right. Just to add on to that, right? Playing older games on the Nintendo Switch, right? So the screen is actually is 1080p now, right? And I was playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Fantastic game. I won't say enough good things about it. It runs in perfect 30 FPS. So fantastic there. Good job. But it is more noticeable on handheld now because it still runs natively in the old Nintendo Switch 1 native handheld mode, which I think was in 540p or whatever, right? It was 540p upscaled to 720p, right? So now when you're bringing that upscaled for 540p to 720p into 1080p, it doesn't look as great on the screen.
Interesting.
Because this is a common thing. So I don't know if you've messed around with when you mess around and you set a you set your computer monitor down to like a lower resolution, the games will not look as great because the monitor is not calibrated correctly for those pixels, right? Because it's denser and there's an actual science behind it. So the games will not. So you're playing on a TV, so it's negligible at this point, right? But when you're playing on a handheld, you will, at least I noticed it, right? Is that it is, I think my OLED looked better. Not screen wise, but like, just from the resolution.
That specific game.
Specific game.
So you're saying the game ran better, but the upscaling, like the multiple layers of upscaling made it noticeable that it was being upscaled.
No, so it doesn't upscale from 720p to 1080p. It's just a 720p image running on a 1080p.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're saying now. Yeah, because like I'll tell you where I notice it on my TV. If I go into like Hulu and stream like a cartoon, so like I really love Regular Show or Adventure Time. Watching those on a big 65-inch TV, you very much so notice the pixelation, even though like it's line art, like it's a cartoon. It's all like, oh no, it's very noticeable that this is a 1080p image that's getting stretched to fit this 65-inch.
That's exactly what's happening here. So your mileage will vary. I sincerely hope that they update it to at least make it so on the Switch 2 you run it as a docked version of that, because it can it can handle it in a docked version of it in handheld mode. It can handle it, right?
So the docked version would be running a native 1080.
Yes.
On the 1080. So and I guess that would be something the developers would have to go back. Or do you think Nintendo could implement a software-wide force this game into docked mode?
Nintendo ain't doing that. They're not doing that. It's all in the developers. I don't think they don't want to play around with that. But
and I do know the Xenoblade developers are releasing a Switch 2 update for Chronicles X. And the only reason I know that is when Nintendo said select titles are getting upgraded, it was part of the scroll across the screen. And so hopefully they go back and say, no, let's update our other 3 titles and just do a software patch.
So Chronicles 3 did get updated.
Oh, it did?
It did get an update, but I'm pretty sure it was just a stability update, just to make sure it ran on the Switch 2.
Gotcha.
Right?
So not like a Switch 2 version upgrade.
Exactly, but it was a stability so you could play it on the Switch 2, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, going back onto there, we're talking about the screen. I think the screen is great. It's an LCD
Dude, the
screen.
screen looks good.
It's an HDR. I think it's HDR.
It does do HDR.
It does. So that screen. So honestly, I think the LCD screen is pretty good. I think the OLED Switch kind of beats it out just a tad bit. But in my like average eye test, I can't tell the difference. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I took my Switch 2 and I watched someone with an OLED Switch, and we both played Mario Kart 8. We pulled them up side by side, And in my honest opinion, I think it looked better on the Switch 2. I think maybe it's the pixel density, but also the HDR. Like, I felt the colors were better. And I liked the image on the Switch 2 better. I don't know if it was like objectively better, but I personally liked it better the way that it looked.
I think the screen is fantastic. I think they made a good decision on upping the size of the Switch 2, right? I think it is on par with, because I enjoy my Steam Deck a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think it's on par. I really like the design of it. I think it looks very pretty to look at, right? And the LCD screen is good. The other thing I do like is that there's one USB-C port on the bottom.
Yep.
And there's one USB-C port on the top, right? And I don't know how important you think that is, but that is actually a game changer.
Dude, being able to plug in from the top while you're sitting on your couch or your bed in handheld mode, huge deal. Huge deal.
It is a huge deal. It is a huge deal. Like one of their, when the Switch came out, one of their classic, I know this is an OLED Switch, but their promotional thing was this hinge, right? You remember that when the Switch 1 came out? I was like, this was a huge deal when this came out. The Switch 2 hinge is pretty good. I don't have any complaints with it. I don't really play with this being on like a hinge mode or anything like that. I was
gonna bring that up. So here's the thing about this hinge. And I did not expect this hinge to like wow me as much as it did. Correct me if I'm wrong. That OLED hinge that you just did, it kind of like clicks into place. Like it's a loose hinge.
It is this clicks, yeah.
No, the Switch 2 hinge, it has like tension to it. And it is a much heftier hinge than I truly expected. Like, you look at these and like it's actually got like some stability to it. And like the Switch 1, I was like worried setting it down on the original like little hinge. This thing, like, I can put it on the table and I can actually press down on it and I don't feel like I'm gonna break it. And I can like adjust the angle. I think this is the sleeper of like any of the upgrades that they did. I think this is the sleeper upgrade that maybe people were just like, oh, it's a nicer hinge. And it's like, oh no, I think it's a significantly nicer hinge.
So the OLED, it does have pressure on it. It's not a click and place kind of type of deal, right? So I think this is a problem that they solved in the OLED, right? So I think,
and I never had an OLED.
Right.
So
points
I
on
never
Nintendo
had
for that. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of things that they solved with the OLED and they kind of carried it over with the Switch 2, which is good.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. But man, I'm still on the controller a bit. I'm still kind of salty. I'm still kind of salty on the controller. So
I'm not going to say go out and spend $80 or $90 or whatever it is on the Switch 2 Pro controller. I will say though, everyone I've talked to who has tried a Switch 2 Pro controller is like, dude, the difference between the Switch 2 and the Switch 1 Pro controller is huge. Like, people say they feel incredible about the Switch 2 controller. And it's just like little things like, I guess the buttons are softer on the press. The joysticks have a thinner stick on them, so they glide easier around the edge and they're not like scraping. And I guess it is slightly more ergonomic. But I don't know. For me, I still think the PS5 DualSense is probably the best controller ever made.
Right.
But I think the Pro controller on the Switch 2, but once again, that feels like a docked. They're considering docked players less than they're considering handheld players. And I think you're right that like maybe, I don't know, I think they need to come out with Pro Joy-Cons and not let the third party market fill that niche.
Yeah, I for Pro Controller, going back to the Pro Controller bit, right? Um, I have no interest. Now, okay, mind you, I said this about the Switch 2. So this opinion may change, right? I have no interest in buying a Switch 2 Pro Controller because my Switch 1 Pro Controller works perfectly fine. The only thing I just can't do is wake it up from a sleep, right? Waking up
Yeah.
from a sleep mode. Um, that's fine. I mean, I can just go over. It's not usually too far away from me, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that big, like not a huge deal. Um, but you never know. Maybe if it goes on sale, maybe I will pick it up. But as of right now, I don't see the value proposition, which is good on Nintendo. Thank you for giving me backwards compatibility with my older controllers. I really appreciate that.
So yeah,
I don't have
they've
to go
really
out and buy
nailed
more
backwards
Joy-Cons.
compatibility in
Mhm.
all regards. Controls, software, like the fact that things are running better just because it's the same architecture. Like, I think a lot of people were surprised by that. Me coming from
Mhm.
like the PS5 world, like when I bought a PS5, I was stoked that it had the PS4 backwards compatibility. And they're like, oh, it's the same architecture. So even if we don't update, everything's going to run slightly better. And like, I
Mhm.
noticed it immediately on the games that I played, even before like patches came out. It was all like, I timed stuff and saw how much faster it was. It's the same thing with the Switch too. Like, I am noticing
Mhm.
immediately the difference in just Switch 1 games.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm stoked. I'm stoked on the backwards compatibility of it.
Right, for sure. And speaking of fast things, let's transition here to Mario Kart. Oh my god. Let me just say this now. This is the best Mario Kart game I played since DS. And that's a statement because Mario Kart DS is pretty renowned as being one of the greatest Mario Kart games out there. So, at least in my opinion, I don't know if that's a renowned fact, but I'm going to state that as a renowned fact, right? I think Mario Kart DS was a pinnacle, right? Um, so it's
So
pretty fun.
I'm not a huge Mario Kart person. I play Mario Kart with friends on occasion.
Hmm.
Um, I saw the early reviews for Mario Kart World where people being like, "Oh, it's an empty open world. There's nothing to do. Uh, like 24 racers is too much." Like, and I'll tell you my impressions of Mario Kart. I think saying the open world is empty and nothing to do is disingenuous. There is in fact things to do in the open world. I spent an hour playing. I found like 15 different time trials in just like the
Hmm.
one little corner that I was exploring. There's very much so stuff to do. There may be parts that feel like there's not as much to do, but there are things. Empty is an exaggeration. Uh, with the 24 racers, I think what I love about the 24 racers is when I would play Mario Kart 8, there would be this kind of thing that would happen where somebody would pull way forward into the lead, and
Hmm.
then like whoever was in second or third would take the brunt of everything that the AI was throwing, and that person in first would just get further and further. It was like as soon as you got into first, you were unstoppable. Um, and I think the 24 man, it like stuff will hit you in second and then stuff will keep going past you because there is so much, and
Hmm.
it shrunk that ability to get that huge gap is what it
Right.
feels like to me. um and I think it makes it more fun. I think it makes it more fun because there isn't this point of just like, oh, they're so far ahead that I'll never get them.
Hmm.
And then I did try knockout races, and they're
Hmm.
awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say this too. Knockout Race is probably the most fun I've had in Mario Kart in a while. It is a great addition to the game. I don't know if you play. Have you played online with
I
Knockout
haven't
Race
touched
before,
online yet.
dude? It is a very much. It's so chaotic. It's so much fun, and I played it on stream a while back ago, and it is the most fun I've had in a while because it's just like I can't believe, dude. There was one point where I was like, it was the best of 16, right? Moving on. And I was 18. I was like 18th place, right? And the two racers ahead of me, I felt so bad for. I hit them both with red shells, and I screwed them both over, and they got knocked out. I was like, I'm so sorry, man, but that's the way of the game. So, but yeah, it's a fun mode. Another mode to me that doesn't hit the same as it used to is battle. I don't know what it is.
Oh, I
It
haven't
just
tried
doesn't hit.
battle yet.
It doesn't hit the same for me anymore. I don't. Maybe it's because knockout race is just so good. I think that's why. I think that's the when I play Mario Kart, it's like I don't only want to play Grand Prix, and Grand Prix is pretty cool, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But battle just doesn't hit the same as it used to. It's just
Man, I'm
maybe
gonna
it's
have
just
to
the
try
added
it.
players. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to
you should
try
try
it.
it and let me know. Yeah.
So I'll say this about battle. In Mario Kart 8, I wasn't the biggest fan of the battle modes, but that's because to me, the best battle kart game of all time is still Diddy Kong Racing. The battle
Right.
levels
Yeah.
in Diddy Kong Racing on N64 are peak. They're well designed. The items you get for battles are great. And I don't think Mario Kart's ever come close. So I don't
Right.
have a huge attachment, so maybe I'll turn around and play it and go, oh no, I love this. But maybe I'll have the same
Oh,
thing where I'll just be like, nope, they're still chasing Diddy Kong Racing and not quite catching up.
mm-hmm. I haven't had any experience with Diddy Kong Racing, so I can't really say much on that
I
point.
think it's on NSO.
Is it really?
I could be wrong. That or it's one of those games we've been yelling at him to add forever. Diddy Kong Racing NSO. Oh no, I don't think it is on there.
Okay. Well, looks like another game that Nintendo will probably. I'm sure. I know. I actually watched the Diddy Kong Direct. I mean, not Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong Direct, right, for the new Donkey Kong game.
Yeah.
It actually looks pretty decent, right? And I was like, I'm not really a huge Donkey Kong
Donkey
fan.
Kong
I'll be honest.
64 was awesome. That was the last one I played.
But yeah, maybe I'll check this one out. It looks pretty good. I mean, I'm not so But going back to Mario Kart, Grand Prix, you played Grand Prix already, right?
Yeah,
It's the
I've
standard
done a
race
Grand Prix. It's pretty standard. Other than I think 24 racers is a good increase.
Right. I really liked what they did, the transitions from one track to another. I think it was a very cool and unique thing. And it felt like a new experience, right? It felt like a new Mario Kart experience. That's why I think I really liked it. It wasn't the same, going from one track to another. It felt like an actual um, it felt like an actual Grand Prix where you're just like going from one racetrack to another racetrack to another, going from one city to another city to another city to one city,
Yeah.
right? So a grand tour kind of type of deal. And have you unlocked Rainbow Road yet? Have you gotten to that
I
that
haven't.
point where?
I haven't.
Okay, so I won't spoil that because actually, it is pretty cool the way they present it. It is actually really awesome.
Man, now you're
when
making me
you
want
unlock
to
it.
just play Mario Kart right now.
I thought it was really, really cool. The open world is really, really good. There's been videos where I'm just like, scrolling through YouTube shorts and they're like, I'm going to follow this train and see how far it goes, right? Or we're going to follow this Yoshi that's hitchhiking across the world, right?
Yeah.
And see where he ends up, right?
Well, I did that. I like chased Rosalina for like 20 minutes. Or not Rosalina. It's one of the Mario girls. But I chased her for like 20 minutes and just saw where she drove and like did it like it's just fun to kind of bum around.
Right, yeah. And some of the mechanics too, like wall riding is a new mechanic too. I don't know if you've seen the crazy stuff that people have been doing on time trials. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
There's this one map. I think it's I forgot what map it was. It was the ancient ruin looking map, right? Where they do that classic trick off the edge, going into a wall, and then they go off this ring looking thing, right?
Yeah, they tap the ring and they
Yeah.
jump like 8 times, and you're just like, the skill cap on this game is going to be nuts.
It is nuts. I've encountered people that have been doing like these wall things, and just like I was like, can't do that. I was like, how did you guys do that, right? So I'm like, I think overall my impressions of this is that this is probably the best Mario Kart game in a while. Now, in a while, I say this because Mario Kart 8 has been the dominating force in Mario Kart for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So I think that has a big implication behind it.
So I guess my thoughts with all of it is I think it's good. Like that's the
Mhm.
and you know, people talk about not getting a console at launch because there aren't very many games out for it. And I guess I'll use this to wrap up my full thoughts on the Switch in general. I think Mario Kart World is great, and it's a sign that Nintendo is going to continue to pump out great first party titles like they always have. But
Mhm.
if you don't already own a Switch, if you've just never been interested, I think the backwards compatibility of the Switch 2 makes it an easy buy to turn
Right.
around and say, oh no, I do have a huge library of games I can play. And if you did own a Switch, I think there's a lot of games that maybe you wanted to buy, but like you heard they don't run well, like the Pokemon games, you know? I
Mhm.
think the Switch 2 is going to be the de facto way to turn around and play Arceus or Scarlet and Violet and like have them actually run well.
Yeah. To
I
touch on
think
that point, I did play Pokemon Scarlet. It ran really good. So it was
so.
really good. But there's other problems with that game besides just the graphics,
Besides
right?
them running
There's
well,
there's other problems with it, but I think not to interrupt you, sorry, go ahead. I
no.
just wanted to add that, but
But
yeah.
yeah, that's I am happy with my purchase. That's what I'm getting around to saying. Like I've yet to feel buyer's remorse over buying a Switch 2.
Right. You know what game I haven't played yet and I bought it and it's sitting right here. It's this. Bravely
Oh, you
Default.
got Bravely Default?
And let me tell you something, okay? I haven't played this game yet, but the unboxing process of this is the most disappointing unboxing. I think this is the first physical game I've bought in a while, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that.
Yeah.
This is the most unsatisfying thing I've ever opened in my life for games. And I don't think this is a new thing, right? But and I know this is a Square Enix product. This isn't a Nintendo first party product. So I haven't opened like Mario Kart physically, right? The
Yeah.
physical copy of Mario Kart. So I don't
That
know how
is
well
kind of
that.
the state of physical games right now. You open them and there's no playbook. I can't remember where I was, but somebody had a new game and they opened it and there was a playbook and I was like, "There's a playbook in that?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess there is." Like it was a
Right.
shocking thing. That's how it's been for a while, and it's a bit of a bummer.
Hmm. But it is what it is. And I'm sure we'll talk about this later about but this is a game key card, right? So this isn't a new thing. Like I said, this is a new thing where you buy a physical game and all it is just a key, play the game, and you're just downloading the game on your system, right? Um, but I can see why that would be annoying. Now I'm just like, why didn't I just buy digital,
Yeah.
right? So
It's to have the case on your shelf.
I guess
That's
so.
literally the only reason you do it now.
Hmm.
Which I understand game key cards. I don't want to get deep into it, but like I understand the cost savings of like those the actual like physical storage that it takes for a Switch 2 game. Like
Hmm.
it's something like they're saving like $5 per thing by just doing a key card
Right.
per unit. And so I get it. I'm still bummed about it, but I get it.
Yeah.
It's a cost savings thing. And people are upset about games costing $80. And it's all
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
okay, well, like if this is a way for them to get the game to cost $10 less or whatever, I'll take that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Just to wrap up my thoughts on the Switch. I thought initially when I was gonna buy it, I was like, I guess I just have Mario Kart to play on it. But now I'm like, man, I get to play Zelda the way it's meant to be played. I get to play all these Switch games the way that there's a lot of Switch games that I bought that I haven't played through, right? So I'm gonna be excited to just play through that, which is kind of an interesting statement now that we're facing now that I think about it, right? Where we are at the point now where we are getting these new consoles and we can say, I just want to play my older games on it.
Yep.
Right. So
Well, and I said this before, it's the same thing when you buy a graphics card and you're like, no, I'm buying this new graphics card, so a lot of the games I'm currently playing run better. You don't buy a new graphics card saying, oh, I'm buying this because I know this game's coming out 2 years from now that I'm stoked to play and run. It's like, no, you just want the things you have to run a little better. And that's what the Switch 2 delivers, and I'm happy about it.
Same with me.
But you know what else has been delivered over the last 3 weeks? The gaming showcases. We have had not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different gaming showcases that have happened in the last 3 weeks. And we got to talk about them. We got to blitz through them.
All right, let's run through. Okay, first up, let's talk about PlayStation State of Play. I know this isn't technically considered Summer Games Fest, but you know, I'm gonna lump this in here because it was like 2 days before the first before the actual Summer Games Fest kicked off.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good games that were announced. I'm just gonna kind of list through them, and we're just gonna talk about. We don't have to talk about all of them. I'm just gonna list kind of a couple of them here. Ghost of Yotei, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. Cool. I haven't actually played Ghost of Tsushima yet, but I'm probably will in right before this comes out. Actually,
Love
you know
Ghost
what?
of Tsushima. Love Ghost of Tsushima.
I've heard a lot of good things. I know Sucker Punch is a local company here in the great state of Washington, so good on that. Okay, so this next game on the list, Marvel Tokon, Fighting Souls. This is a new game from Arc Systems, and I remember watching this, and I was like, "Oh God, it's Marvel versus Capcom," and then it wasn't, and then you saw Arc Systems, then and you're like, "Okay, I'm still in," right? The game looks fantastic. I don't know if you're a huge like Arc Systems or fighting game person, but I think it looks fantastic. I think this is going to rock the Evo stage when it comes out. Which is another point I'll actually make a little bit later on because Sony did announce their own fight stick, which was pretty interesting as well.
Oh,
kind of go along. So, but we'll talk about that just in a little bit. Did you have any comments on this Marvel fighting game? Or are you just
no,
kind of like,
I'm stoked for the fighting community because I know I've seen a lot of people react to it and had the same thought process you did. They were excited about this game. And I'm excited for them to be excited about it.
You know, I'm just going to talk about this now. So I don't know if you heard a while back, Sony actually did buy the rights to Evo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Sony, I don't know if they own a controlling stake or they own the whole tournament out, but they do own it. So this is what I'm thinking now. They're releasing a fight stick, right? So I think this is going to be their premiere game in the next year at Evo or whenever Evo. So this comes out in 2026. So yeah, I think this will be their premiere game.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see. So I'll tell you, in terms of fighting games, I don't play a lot of fighting games, but the last week, what I've been watching as I've been going to bed is the old Fatal Fury animes. There were 2 OVAs and a movie. And I guess sometime this year, there's a promotional anime coming out for the new Fatal Fury game.
Yeah.
And like, I remember watching those growing up in the 90s and thinking they were the coolest things. Like, I think the Fatal Fury OVAs are better than the Street Fighter 2 animated movie, which may be a hot take. But I get really fascinated about the lore of fighting games. Like, I love the Blaze Blue, like, art direction and like the story there, and Guilty Gear I'm a huge fan of, and the Street Fighter series. Like, I love the stories of those games, even if I haven't played them a ton. And I know like Marvel vs. Capcom had like a cool, like, I've watched a few videos about like the stories and stuff from that game. So I'm interested to see what they do with this, where it is like a purely Marvel thing. Because, you know, Marvel's come into the spotlight a lot more in recent years because of the MCU and whatnot. And it'll be interesting interesting to see how a modern Marvel game tells stories.
And you know, this is an Arc System Works game. So I think they made the DBZ fighting game, which is very popular too.
Okay.
The Grand Blue fighting game. I'm missing a very important one. Hold on. I'm missing a very important one that people are gonna roast me for if I don't say this. But they made a lot of Guilty Gear.
Oh, they are the Guilty Gear guys.
They are the Guilty Gear guys. I see. I knew I would get. I'm gonna get. I wanted to protect myself before I got flamed because that is their most notable title, right? So there's a lot that goes on with Arc System Works, and I love their games. I'm not a huge fighting game person, but I do play them from time to time, and they're really good. So
would you say this was the biggest like announcement for you in this?
No. No. One of the big announcements though is the next one, Final Fantasy Tactics. They're the remaster of the game. So I've never played Final Fantasy Tactics. So this will be my first. I think this is of 1 and 2, or is just 1.
This is just one. This is just the original.
Just one. So this will be exciting. I've never played it, and I can't wait to actually get my hands on it. So
I own the original on PS1. I also own War of the Lions on PSP, that remake. I'm stoked about this remake. It's one of the few remaining like major Final Fantasy games that it wasn't playable on modern consoles. We can get a 13 trilogy now. We'll have them all. But looking at like the way it was presented, that like it's not this huge overhaul. It's like it's been HDified, and even if you don't want like upgrades, there is just the classic version of the game is going to be included. This was probably the biggest announcement for me from the state of play.
Yeah, so this was one of them for me. Going down more into the list, Neo 3. I haven't played Neo before. Have you played Neo?
I tried Neo once before I got into Souls-like, so I need to go revisit them.
Yep, so that's coming out. Silent Hill F. There's I think we're going to talk about that during the Konami presentation.
We'll talk about it more, but I'm stoked.
Along the same lines of Konami, Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater. I think there's a new trailer that released for that, so that was pretty cool. Sword of the Sea, an adventure game from the creators of Journey. It seems like an indie game to me. I don't really know much about it.
I could go into length about Sword of the Sea. Journey is one of the greatest indie games ever made. If you haven't played Journey, to everyone listening, go play Journey. It takes like 2 hours. Beautiful indie game. It was initially made by That Game Company. That's the name of the company, is That Game Company. They had a few other indie titles. Their biggest title right now is Sky Children of Light. But a lot of the creators left That Game Company and formed a new company. And that company is the one that's releasing Sword of the Sea. So it is going to be very, like, a lot of people who love Journey are very stoked for this game. I'm stoked for this game. It was my favorite indie title that I saw. It was announced ages ago, and we finally have a release date for it.
Right.
So this was a big deal for the indie community.
Yeah, so I'm very excited. I haven't played Journey, but I'll definitely check it out. I'm sure I'll check out this game as well. The next one is Iron. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's just the climbing survival game. It looks very cool. I'm watching the trailer for it now. Seems pretty cool. But I don't know much about that one. And the next one after that is Digimon Story, Time Stranger. Now, I've seen a lot of buzz around this title for some reason. And I think the reason is that these are disenfranchised Pokemon players that are going to be like, you know what? I hope Digimon is actually, surprisingly, from what I've heard, has been pumping out some really good games, and people just have not like realized it.
So let me tell you something. I'm the kid who grew up saying Digimon was better than Pokemon. I had the Digimon World games. I absolutely adored them. I had the OG Digimon card game. Digimon is seeing a huge resurgence in recent years. They released a new card game that's pretty popular. And their last few video games have been really good. And the hype around Digimon Storytime Stranger is high in the Digimon community. Like, the hype around this is probably similar to the hype that was around like Arceus coming out and people being like, holy crap, open world Pokemon. Like, this is this feels like it's gonna put Digimon on the map of like a must play game.
Right. So this is probably one of the first Digimon games that I'm ever going to buy. So I'm excited to try it. So yeah, that's going to come out October 3rd, 2025. I think that's when we're going to get a release date for that. Next up on the docket here, Baby Steps. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for this. This wasn't a newly announced game. I'm pretty sure this was announced during the Game Awards or sometime before that as well. I'm surprised this game hasn't come out yet, actually, because I've been seeing it every time I see it. It's always in the PlayStation or just like there's always a trailer that comes up whenever I watch like a Jeff Keighley special. But yeah, I'm surprised this game hasn't come out, but apparently it's going to come out September 8th. If you like one of those, it's very much like, do you remember QWOP? You remember that game? It's like that. So if you're into that kind of games, that's cool. I'm not, but I think so I think
I can tell that this is not your cup of tea.
I mean, I get it. I mean, it seems like a streamer game, if that makes sense, right? Where it's just just being mean to the streamer while they're playing this and just having TTS on. I very much am in that kind of, it very much seems like in that camp. Liza P, Overture. I know you're a huge Liza P. I actually am going to try Liza P on the games that I want to play, right? I think it's at the top of that list for the next things that I'm going to play. So
I'm a huge Liza P fan. I've got this DLC. I've already purchased it. I'm probably going to start it this week. I'm very excited about this DLC.
Nice. And it is apparently it's a prequel, right? That's what it is, right?
And that's all I know. So if you know more than that, say nothing.
Nope, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't know anything. I don't know anything more about that. So, but yeah, cool. That's really cool. That was apparently shadow drop. No one knew about it. I didn't see any rumors about that through and like.
Yeah, we knew it was this summer. We had no clue what the release date was. So when they were just like, it's out today, we were all like, what?
Yeah. So I love it when developers do that. So that you don't have to wait. So because anyway, Thief VR. It's a Thief VR game. Legacy of Shadows. Cool.
I have a PS2 VR that I've played once. If we want to talk about a piece of hardware that I have buyer's remorse about, it's that PS2 VR.
Yeah, no.
I bought it. I played Call of the Mountain. I bought it to play Horizon Call of the Mountain. It was awesome. And I haven't touched it since. I need to touch it. I need to get it and play Resident Evil 8. Because I still haven't played that, and I can play that in VR. But yeah, maybe I can play Thief. Legacy of Shadow.
Maybe. Legacy of Shadow, yep. You know what else you can play? Astrobot. Game of the Year. Did it win Game of the Year last year?
It did win Game of the Year last year. And let me tell you, Astrobot is a blast. If you haven't touched it yet, one of the best 3D platformers of all time. Wears its inspirations on its sleeve. I'm stoked that it's still getting content and updates a year later.
Added 5 new levels, and I haven't played Astrobot, but I've heard great things about it. I'm always down for platformer games and their success, so good on that. And I think I talked about Project Defiant already, which is their new fight stick, which is interesting that Sony's releasing their fight stick. to me, and I think that is because of Evo. Um, so that's going to be an interesting thing. I don't know too much of the specifics on that. I'm sure it has world. It's going to have world class like controller sticks and everything, right? Hall effect sticks or whatever they call them.
I expect it to have haptic feedback that when you get punched, you feel it in your face.
Oh, you're just you're
That's
gonna get shocked. Yeah, when
yeah,
um
a
so
whole
yeah,
new
that was
level of immersion.
yeah, and there's also the PlayStation VR 2. More stuff was announced for that. But
Maybe I need to look into it. Maybe I need to see what I'm missing on my PSVR 2 headset that I never use.
right. But that pretty much is it for the PlayStation side. Any thoughts on what was kind of announced, what was what was talked about? Anything that I missed
I
on
don't think
here?
you missed anything. So just so of all those announcements, what would you say was the biggest thing for you? What was there anything that you didn't necessarily know about that you turned around and said, "Oh, that looks interesting. I want to play that." Like just a sum.
Um, so I knew Final Fantasy Tactics was coming, so that wasn't really too much of a surprise, right? I think the Marvel game was the biggest surprise for me, honestly. The Marvel fighting game was a huge surprise, and I think, um, see, I say this every time when I say I was like, I might actually pick it up, and then I have no one to play it with, and then you're just like, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So So this might be one of those situations where I say I'm going to pick it up, but I never do. But it seems interesting, and I'm really excited for the fighting game community. I want to see it during Evo because I know it's going to be a huge thing when Evo comes around in 2026, when this game releases. So that was mine. What about yours?
So for me, I think Tactics was probably the biggest announcement because that was that's one of those things where it's all like there's been rumors forever and we're just like
Hmm.
when's it actually going to happen? So that was huge, but like for me, I think Sword of the Sea and Liza P Overture, that Shadow Drop were like the biggest things, even though like I haven't gotten around to Liza P Overture, but like the not necessarily big name titles really stole the show for me. um
Hmm.
Liza P Overture and Sword of the Sea are kind of my two biggest takeaways from that I'm stoked about.
Right. Alrighty. So next up, Summer Game Fest. Let's go through these. Resident Evil Requiem.
Huge
Good.
announcement. Very stoked
Hmm.
for that. um I was a fan of Resident Evil Outbreak, which apparently this is based off those characters and that story. I'm super stoked to see him bring that back.
Yeah, I need to play through 7 and 8. I need to do that, so I haven't done that yet. So, um, sequel to Code Vein, Mortal Shell 2, and Atomic Heart 2. Um,
Big sequels. Big
big
sequels.
sequels.
Code Vein
Wha Yeah,
was
Code
big
Vein is huge.
surprise.
Apparently, I okay. Code Vein to me was kind of like they changed the art style, so that was an interesting approach. I think it'll still be. I think it played Code Vein 1 played really really good. So
Yeah. I
I
saw
played
it and I
for it.
was like, is this Code Vein? And then like it got deeper into it and I was like, wait a second, this is Code Vein. Like,
Right. Hmm. Other games that were announced: Stranger Than Heaven. This is a game that's set in 20th century, in the 20th century Japan. Very very early on, like in the 40s, 50s.
yeah.
This is done by the studio of Yakuza. So this seems like a very cool game that I kind of want to try out. So,
Yeah, I have friends who are deep in the Yakuza series right now, and I think they're gonna eat this up.
hmm Onimusha, I don't really know much about. Um,
I could go into length on Onimusha. One of my favorite game series of all time. Onimusha Way of the Sword is a day one buy for me. It looks awesome. Any more
nice, nice.
information they want to give me about this game, feed it to me.
And then there's a couple other games that they kind of announced. This whole showcase wasn't really that big. It wasn't really that huge in my opinion. Um, But yeah, that was, I mean, a lot of VR stuff, a lot of indie games, new franchise, The Cube. It's an MMO shooter set in Atomic Heart. I thought that was interesting. Wu Tang. There's a Wu Tang game. You know, the Wu Tang gang.
Oh yeah, man. That game
Yeah.
looks insane.
So that seemed that seems pretty cool. But other than that, there isn't a whole lot. That was I think Resident Evil stole the show for that one. And
well, and let's talk about the reveal of Resident Evil. They
mhm.
had that Capcom announcement that it was all like, all the Resident Evil games are on sale, and we're like, really? Really, you're gonna give time to that? And then they had the
Mhm.
director come on and he's all like, I know you guys want to hear about the next Resident Evil, but you're gonna have to wait just a little longer. The blink of an eye, really. And then he went away. And then they closed with it. And I was all like, really? You're gonna tease us 3 times to give us this
Right.
game? It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So yeah, that was pretty much Summer Game Fest in a nutshell. The Xbox presentation, which is in my opinion was actually surprisingly really good. Persona 4 remake, we talked about Persona 4 last time.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
it's
how do you
coming.
feel about it?
I feel nothing from it. I'm gonna be honest with you because it's this is one of those things where it's like I don't know if it's a problem with leaks where it's like I already know it's happening, right? And they didn't really show much, so it was kind of like come back to me in a year and we'll talk about it then. That's kind of how I feel about it, right?
Gotcha.
Um,
So you need to get your
but
hands on it. You need to get your hands on it. You need to play it.
there is a lot of thoughts on that where within the Persona community where it's like this game really need a remake, right? So I'm kind of in that camp too, where it's like, you know, the original was pretty good, but I'm sure the remake is going to be really, really good. There's a lot of things they can probably fix. So, other than that, one of the huge announcements for me in this showcase, I'm not going to list all the games on here. Besides, there's Final Fantasy games that were finally released. 16 was finally released on Xbox, and remake is going to get released on Xbox later this fall. One of the games that I was most excited for is actually Beast of Reincarnation. I don't know if you know
Oh,
anything about that.
I know nothing about
Um,
it. Tell me about it.
so this is a game by Game Freak, actually.
Oh, I have been seeing things about this.
So this game is probably you were asking what is my most what do I look forward to the most? It's probably this. I'm gonna be honest with
So,
you.
man, here's the thing. I have had a lot of conversations about the Pokemon games and them not running well. And my thesis about that has been I don't think Game Freak has the programmers capable of doing it because, like,
Hmm.
there's a huge worker shortage in Japan for game dev, and like Capcom and Square Enix and those guys and Nintendo proper is snatching them up. And then I saw this and went, oh no, so they can make high graphic games at Game Freak.
Right. It's just that I think they're kind of uninspired of Pokemon at this point. I think it's very much dictated by the Pokemon company by itself at this point. So I don't think there's much they can really do about that. But we could talk about that at a later time. I think there's a lot there's a separate topic there.
But yeah, so why are
Call of
you
Duty.
stoked about this? Why are you stoked
Oh
about
man,
Beast of
I
Reincarnation?
I am stoked about this because of the fact that it is the first game, not the first game that Game Freak has, or maybe it is the first AAA title that Game Freak has was released outside of Pokemon. But once I heard about that, I'm like, okay, let's see what they can actually do, right? Without being tied to Nintendo as a publisher, right? Because Nintendo definitely sets standards to their
Yeah.
games, especially the Pokemon games, right? So, um, I'm gonna be interested. It seemed really cool when I saw the trailer for it. And I hope it does good. I really hope it does good. So,
So I'll tell you my biggest surprise from the Xbox showcase. Uh, it was Residents, a Plague Tale Legacy. So
mhm.
the Plague Tale games, those are kind of I feel like they're a sleeper set of games in the industry. But both the first one and the second one were like Game of the Year nominees when they came out. But like, I feel like they just kind of flew under the radar. Not a lot of people talked about them. Both really cool games. And like, there's a story and a world there that like, I think more gamers should experience, and seeing that they're getting a third game, I'm like, cool. I'm here for it. This is one that I'm going to be playing.
Right. And the actually sleeper announcement for me was, I knew this was coming, but I thought Xbox was going to do their own version of this, but I guess not. So Xbox announced their own version of the ROG Ally, which is a Steam Deck competitor, which is another portable handheld PC, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So Xbox announced their own version to that, and it looks really cool. Will I buy one? Probably not, but it looks really cool. There's a lot of implications behind this product, just from Windows perspective. And there's a whole like a video I think that Linus Tech Tips did or whatever. There's actually like under the hood improvements to Windows 11 that they made. So like there's less bloat, there's better performance and everything.
Oh.
So it's gonna be interesting. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was confirmed that this type of update will come to Windows 11, but if that's any indication, I think there's a lot of just things that are like, oh, Microsoft can do that now. Where else are they gonna go from here, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna point out. I'm just gonna point this out for the viewers at home. Jim just said, probably not gonna buy it. So when we have an episode where he says, I know I said I wasn't gonna buy it, and then pulls it off from the side of the screen, this is the moment. This is the moment we need to reference back to get the clip. Okay. I'm not gonna buy one. It'll just be the running gag. It'll be the running gag.
If I do buy one, I want you to tell me to immediately return it, because this thing is like the ROG Ally X is $1,000.
That's true. That's true. They're expensive. Like, so, I remember when people were saying bad things about the Switch 2, and they were all like, yeah, just go buy like a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally. And people are like, dude, these are not the same price point devices that you are recommending.
Right. And I already have a Steam Deck, so I don't really need, I've thought about it, but I'm like, is it really going to run it that much better? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that is the Xbox showcase. Is there anything else that we?
So the final showcase, and this is just a me thing. This is just a me thing, because I know you're not big into horror games, but Konami had a showcase, and I felt like this showcase was like the cherry on top of a week of great showcases. For me, what makes a showcase good is if there are more games that I am excited about than I will get time to play. Like, it doesn't have to be the biggest thing that I've ever seen, the coolest, newest game. If there are more games than I will have time to play that I'm excited about, it was a good showcase. And I feel like this weekend did all that, and then it threw one more thing in my face. Konami did a showcase and said, here's more footage on Silent Hill F. Silent Hill is going to be awesome. And then they closed by saying, hey, remember that Silent Hill 2 remake that was really awesome that Bloober Team did? We're letting them remake Silent Hill 1.
Oh, that's cool.
I am not going to be normal about this. And I'll tell you why. I played Silent Hill 1 through 4 by myself for the first time last year on stream. And Silent Hill 2 is my least favorite of the 4, which is not the common opinion. But my favorite was definitely Silent Hill 3, which is a continuation of Silent Hill 1, and I adore Silent Hill 1. The Silent Hill 2 remake made me get Silent Hill 2. Like, that was the one that made me go, oh, I understand why this is everyone's favorite. It might be my favorite now. They took my least favorite game and rocketed it up to like the top. And so now to see them go make one of my favorites of the originals, I'm like, Bloober, I trust you completely. I don't care if it takes 4 years after this announcement. Like, let him cook. This is going to be one of the best horror games ever made. I think horror fans are eating right now. With the Silent Hill remakes, the Resident Evil remakes. Silent Hill F looks absolutely terrifying. And I'm excited for that. Like, Konami, I feel like Konami had its golden years a long time ago. And I think Konami had a realization of, hey, maybe the newer games that we're making aren't the greatest.
Right.
Let's just start remaking our golden years games. And I know that a lot of people are like fatigued with remakes. But I think in the horror game community specifically, all of the remakes we have been getting have been so good. The Resident Evil remakes, the Silent Hill remake, and like, I'm here for it. I am here for horror games getting remade. And that was the cherry on top of the announcements for the weekend for me.
Yeah, there you go. So that should cover all of everything that happened during the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So
that was everything that happened during the announcement weekends.
So overall, I think there's a lot to be excited about. So
I feel like, so here's a question for you.
Sure.
I feel like going into 2025, a lot of people were like, 2025 is going to be a dead year for gaming. And I feel like this sentiment happens every year, where it's all like, oh, this is going to be the worst year in gaming. And then 2023 was full of bangers. 2024 was full of bangers. With knowing what's coming out 2026, 2025 through these showcases, we're almost at the end of June. We're halfway point in the year. How do you feel about 2025 as a year of gaming?
As already?
Yeah.
I think that this year has been really, really good. And the only reason I say that is because it only takes that one game to kind of drive that home. And that was Expedition 33. And that already happened. Right? And that's my pick for game of the year. And I don't think anything's gonna be it, in my opinion.
Okay.
So
I think that's a fair point. That like, we've already seen the best game of the year, and we still have more great games to come.
Yeah, and I know the Ghost of Tsushima sequel is coming out later this year. Silent Hill F is going to release later this year. So there's still a lot coming out. Final Fantasy Tactics. But I think so far from what we've had, if it just ended this month, right? If the year ended this month with everything that's been released, I think it's a pretty good year already. Right?
I agree. I think the current state of gaming is phenomenal. I think it's great. I think we have lots of great games on the horizon. I think the consoles we currently have are great. I think handheld PCs are making gaming super accessible. And like, I think the best days are still ahead of us. And I think the games are reflecting that right now. I think we're getting bangers this year.
And I'm going to give you one prediction. When Nintendo does their Direct, which is, I think they're going to have one in like a month or two, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're going to announce something, and they're going to announce something that's going to come out this year. And I think it's going to be really good. That's my prediction.
You think they're going to be their big Christmas game?
Yes, there's going to be a big Christmas game, and I think it's going to, do I want to say it's going to be a Mario game?
Dude, I
think it might be.
I agree. I think the big sleeper that no one knows about yet, it's either going to be Super Mario Galaxy 3 or Mario Odyssey 2. Like, I'm talking a big Mario game, because we've gotten a lot of Mario games over the last year, but not a big one, you know?
I think it's gonna be a Mario game. And whether or not that releases this year, that's to be seen, but I think Nintendo has something up their sleeve. So,
well, man, I'll say this. This'll kind of be my closing thought. I love announcement season. I love I know back in the day we used to have E3 and that was kind of like the big everyone announced everything, but I do enjoy that like throughout the year we get like a little showcase here and there, but like in the summer with like Summer Games Fest, we still kind of have announcement season. And then we kind of get the others at like the Game Awards, but like it feels like we're not waiting all year for one big event now. It's like, no, like almost every month we have at least one thing to be excited about that like you never know there could be a huge announcement at.
No, it's become a twice a year thing, honestly now. It's the Summer Game Fest kind of weekend, and it's the Jeff Keighley weekend. Actually, they're both Jeff Keighley weekends, but it's the Game Awards, right? That's the two big places.
People love to hate him, but I mean, he's figured out how to make money on award shows. He's figured out how to make them work financially, and you know, he's keeping it alive. He's keeping it alive, and you got to give that to him. He may not be perfect, but he gives us a showcase season, and that's all I want.
There you go.
Well, this has been episode 3 of the podcast, probably a little longer one than the last couple that we've done, but let us know down in the comments. We talked a lot about the Switch 2. Did you get one? What are you playing on it? Are you having a good time? What did you think of all the announcements over the last couple weeks? What is your number one game that you're looking forward to? What's something that wasn't on your radar that you're excited about? Let us know. We'd love to hear about it.
All right. Well, that pretty much covers it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Catch you later.